We're live again. Welcome to another episode of Faith, Family, and Finance.
I'm Marcus Robinson.
It's a problem again?
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Well,
I'm Sharandria.
we're going to try to make it through it.
Oh, wow.
Let us know if you see a major delay in what we got going on. Seems like a delay on this side, but at any rate, we're going to keep it moving. What you
The
got?
internet is doing something really strange tonight, but we'll try to keep forging ahead. We want to talk to you. I need all of my aunties, godparents, uncles, aunts, grandparents, where are you? And especially you parents, let's weigh in tonight. Let's have a conversation. We are talking about back to school. And not just whether or not you're sending your kids back to school, but we're talking about the business of back to school. So I want to hear your comments. We want to talk through it. We're still working out our technical difficulties over here, but that's okay. I see that some of you are on, so all I need you to do is type a comment to let us know if there's a delay on your end or if you hear us just fine. And we're doing the same thing. We're plugging into our devices to make sure that we can hear it well on the other end. But thank you every Sunday for tuning in to Faith, Family, and Finance. And we have to talk about this. Everybody else is talking about it. There's a buzz. But we really want to have a conversation about back to school and the business of back to school. Are you okay with the sound, Marcus? You're not sure. Okay. We want to talk about back to school or in the business of getting back to school. And we put in the word, I want to put in the word business of going back to school because I do believe that back to school is a business. When you start talking about it, when you think about it, not many of us, well, maybe not you, but we're not in the stores nearly as much as we used to be in the stores. But when you do go in the stores now, they have put out school supplies. School supplies are out. So whether you are sending your kids back in the building or not, the advertisers are gearing up for our kids to go back into the building. They definitely want us to come in and patronize them. They want us to buy these items. And it really is a big business. So I want us to, I want to engage. I want to hear your comments. Let's see. I'm not sure. Do I have a comments up? Okay. I want to hear your comments so we can talk about it. If we have any parents on, can you just drop a line, or aunties, godparents, uncles, can you drop a line to say that you are here so that we can begin to ask specific questions and have specific dialogue about this business of going back to school. I know I have friends and family members who are on both sides of the fence in terms of making sure their kids go to school or attend school virtually, and also those who are sending them back to face-to-face school. So this is definitely a judgment-free zone. That's not what we're here to debate because I do believe that each family has to do what is best for them. And we have our very strong reasons as to why we are not allowing our kids to go back into the classroom. However, I have much respect for the parents who have no choice and they need to send their kids back to the classroom. Either way, it's a business. And if we're on here and you're educators, I know Marcus used to be an educator, my mom is an educator, your mom was an educator. We love educators. How do educators protect themselves?
Other than what the CDC.
What do our educators? Yeah, because we know. Hey, thank you for chiming in and saying something to us. Hey, Mama, I just said my mom is an educator. What are our educators going to do to protect themselves? Yeah, they're going to wear their mask. And they're going to stay, I don't know, I guess stay 6 feet apart from the students. But what else? Good luck. Good luck. Especially if you're in the lower grades education. It's so difficult to stay 6 feet apart. But educators, we want to hear from you as well. You know, what do you think what are we going to do? And we will have someone calling in shortly and we'll have more dialogue. But what will you do to protect yourself?
Wow. I don't know. I'm just thinking I had fifth grade at one time and I had seventh grade, and they are totally different in terms of how they interact with their teachers. You know, fifth graders on the one hand, they really want to be adults, but at the same time they really want to be children. And so on the one hand, they'll hug you, but at the same time, they'll want to talk to you as if you're on their level, or whether or not they're on your level. Seventh graders, they can kind of take it or leave it. They probably could practice the social distancing, at least amongst the teacher and student relationship. Now, student to student, peer to peer, I don't know. Because at the end of the day, they're still going through hormonal changes and puberty, and so the whole idea of social distancing is not even natural, especially at that age. So I'm not sure how they're going to handle that, but I don't know. I mean, quite simply, we're not sending our kids there back to school right now because we don't believe that they will be able to practice social distancing. And even if they could, we don't believe that their friends could. At the end of the day, I mean, they're young, they're impressionable, they're clingy, they're germy. I mean, children are just germy by nature. It's how they build up their immune system. So it's one of those situations. My concern is never really for the children, not as much as it is for us or for their grandparents or for that uncle or that auntie who may have some underlying condition. Because the child might mess around and bounce back fine, but that older person may not. And so that's the major concern for me. Because if they're talking about, okay, you can go to you can't go to concerts and large gatherings because the concern is spreading the coronavirus. There's not a much larger gathering in school.
All right. Well, yeah.
I mean, you got like 20,000 kids in our district alone.
Right.
What kind of gathering,
Right. And all of our kids, for us personally, all of our kids' caretakers are 65 and older. Caretakers, grandparents, they're 65 and older, and they all have underlying conditions. And let's talk about that in South Carolina. And I know everybody's not in South Carolina who's on this broadcast, but in South Carolina, even in Georgia, so many children don't go home to their mothers or their fathers. There's an overwhelming amount of children who go home to their grandparents.
Yeah.
That is home. We have so many grandparents who are raising children. How do we protect our senior population who, think about this, Marcus, and I know educators have thought about this. I know school board personnel have thought about this. So this isn't in no way an attempt to bash anyone. It is just so complicated when you think about all of the layers. Think about this, audience. If I'm a student and I'm staying with my grandparents, first of all, and especially if I'm in a rural area, or even if I'm not in a rural area, there's some areas of Columbia that don't have internet access. We had to fight with that. Yeah, there are some areas that don't have internet access, even in Columbia in 2020. But think about it with some of these students. If you live with your grandparents and they don't want to send you to school because they don't want you to bring anything back into the home, but yet at the same time, they don't have the technology that you need at home to go to school virtually.
Yeah.
It's such a difficult place, and I lift up the educators, even all the way up to the state superintendent, educational superintendent. I just said that all wrong. I really just said that. Molly Spearman. I pray for you, Molly. I really pray for Molly and everybody under her leadership, but not just in our state, but in other states as well. Let's see. Let's weigh in. See what our... Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for typing people's name in who need to. What's going on, Marcus?
Well, Facebook is not allowing me to share anything. So if you guys can share, that'll be great. I don't know what that's about.
Oh, wow.
Like when I say we have no options.
No options to share.
None.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
Facebook is not allowing us to share. Okay. Well, please type the name in
Maybe it has something to do with this content. I don't know.
I don't know. All we're talking about is the business of back to school.
Yeah.
Like the business, and it really is a business. It really is a business.
Well, think about the fact that you just said it. Okay, if you have children that are going home with grandparents or live with grandparents, there are two costs involved. You may not have a computer, right? You may not have internet access. If you even have access to the internet, if you have access to the internet, it's still a cost to it. Right. Because if you're streaming, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more than just regular basic internet if you plan to have a solid connection. And even sometimes it's not as reliable as it needs to be.
Right.
And so when you start talking about thousands of children logging in. Are our systems really equipped to handle that at this point?
It's difficult now, even
We gotta
with
do some
us.
stuff.
Yeah, we have challenges. I mean, even when we come on these platforms and we're live, we still have challenges. Sometimes our internet doesn't do everything we need it to do, and if everybody in our home is now online and they're talking to their teachers and so on and so forth, it's going to be even more challenging for us to make sure our internet speed is up to par and that the are devices that are appropriate for the students to use, for the children to use, our children to use while they're attending virtual school. All of our kids they have tablets, yes, but I think at some point they need to be sitting at a desktop computer, and so they're more focused because all summer long, yeah, tablet has had some learning time, but you think of your tablet as something fun to do. In our house, a tablet is a reward.
Right.
That you earn your tablet to be able to play games at the end of a long day.
Right.
If your behavior says you can get your tablet.
Right. Called consequences.
So now we're saying
Rewards.
this is what you're going to use every day to go to school. I think we have to have something different.
Well, and there are some intangibles that you could be missing. So,
Right.
like, for instance, when you go to school, especially in the younger or the lower grades, you learn how to sit down, you learn how to be still, you learn how to interact with other children, you learn how to be respectful of people's time, you learn how to be respectful of people's personal space. So, when, how much of that is really going to be translated,
Right.
By the 70-year-old grandmother who has other things that she needs to do, he or she needs to do, and they're just not focused on all of the things that go along with being in a classroom setting. Learning how to take your turn. These are, it sounds so small, but I'm telling you, these intangibles, if we don't master them, we're going to see something else in the next few years, because that is hugely, hugely important. Montez says, my fear is people who are watching these children may not be able to assist in their studies. Now, that's true because, they got new math, whatever that means. If they barely can read themselves, how can they help? Illiteracy is a huge problem. Many parents are not, on a fourth grade reading level. Now, that's true, unfortunately. And we live in South Carolina, but this problem is everywhere. The illiteracy problem is still a huge problem. And so you're right, Montez. If you have problems yourself, reading, understanding, comprehension, it's going to be hard to relate that to a child or see the importance of it. And I don't know how they're going to mandate, certain things that they would mandate normally in a school, but it is what it is. So Cottrell says we have costs, health care, doctor bills, medicine, challenges for returning back to school. Yeah, everything is still going up. The price tag on all of our expenses are still going up. At the beginning of COVID, they basically gave us options in some cases not to pay bills, but it's not because they went down in price. They just gave you an option to pay them later.
All that's over now.
Yeah, so that 90 days or whatever you got is pretty much over.
It's done.
So they're trying to figure out what the new norm is going to be, and that we're all trying to figure that out.
And these are questions. So I thank you all for polling your questions, putting them out there. Continue to put them out there. One of my questions that I have, and I've heard other educators ask this, and I was trying to, I think we're supposed to have an educator on the line, trying to get educators to weigh in on this. They may not know the answer to this question, but the question that I would like for us to answer, and maybe Dr. Hinton, you may know this, but, the question I would like for us to answer is this. If an educator... Let's see. Are you here? Okay, great. So I don't know if I finally got my educator on the phone, y'all. Okay, so this is my question, and you may not know this because school may not have dealt with this yet. But if an educator becomes exposed to COVID-19, let's say they don't even test positive, but they are exposed. Once you're exposed, you have to quarantine for 14 days. While you are out of school for those 14 days, these are COVID days specifically. Does that take away from your leave time that you already have? And how many times in a school year? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you answer. And how many times in a school year can you have those COVID days? Go ahead. Go ahead and answer.
That's something we're not quite sure of, but that question it has already been asked to our principal, and the answer that he gave us was, we will discuss all of this during pre-planning.
Okay.
So they don't
know the answer to all of these questions yet.
Right.
But I'm thinking that, of course, they're going to want you to use your sick leave days. And if you have any days built up, they're probably going to want you. I'm saying this is what they probably going to want you to do, to use those days. And I'm just hoping that the ones who don't have any days, that they will not thought they pay for that, because, we only get a certain amount of days per year.
Right.
And one quarantine will take away all those days.
Right, and that's what I've heard educators saying. Pause right there. Pause right there. Don't go anywhere. This is what I heard educators saying. If I have to go into quarantine one time, especially if I'm a new educator, I don't have any more days. Like, all of my days are gone. Now, Montez just asked a very important question in the chat, and it's hilarious, but it's a real question. Who's going to substitute? When you think about your substitute teachers, are they really going to be as eager to come in and serve as substitute teachers this year, do you think, ma'am?
No, I don't think so. And besides that, there is already a shortage of substitute teachers.
Exactly.
We have to be very mindful of the days that we take and make sure we get them pre-approved, because there is already a shortage.
Well, not to mention, I'm just thinking about, okay, when you go and apply for a job, they're going to do an application, a background check, but now they got to do a temperature check and see if you've been exposed to COVID-19 in the last 14 days.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's not, even if you did have an adequate amount of subs, the process of getting that sub from home to the classroom is not going to be one day.
Exactly.
Oh, true. That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. Whereas before, you could just pick up the phone and call a sub. Even though I know you're saying it's difficult, but you could pick up the phone and or go out and get a substitute teacher. Now there's going to be an additional vetting process before you can bring a substitute teacher in, because you have to make sure that substitute has not been exposed.
Exactly, and not to mention the fact that, like in Richland County, because when I moved here, I was a sub. What was happening is they put you almost like on a robocall type thing, where they just call you and tell you what school you're going to. That system is destroyed with with COVID. So, how are we gonna handle that?
And can I say one other thing too?
Oh, please.
In our district, most of the substitutes, they are elderly people as well with underlying condition, or people who came out of retirement. So most of your substitute are not the younger age, but the older age.
That's a good point. You have a lot of people who retire and they're now serving as substitute teachers. So that population definitely won't be coming back into the schools to serve as subs during this time. Summer, I hate to hear that you're in quarantine right now. Let us know if you need anything. And also, I know you don't work in a school, but it could be any work related. And I don't know if your being in quarantine is work related. I do know where you work, but I don't know if that is work related. But it's any of us, y'all. No matter if we're going out of the home to go to work, which both of us are, we're putting ourselves at risk. And so my thing is just doing a little bit of math, just a little bit of probability. We already have the two of us going out, coming back in, putting our entire family at risk. Why then send 3 more people out? We just drastically increased our probability of having to go into quarantine. I mean, there's nothing we can do. We can't see the virus. We can't touch the virus, pick it up and move it out of our way. So all we can do is be as careful as we can be, but to then send 3 more people out, it's just not good probability for our household.
Can you imagine what this virus is doing to the psyche of children that have to go to school because ultimately, and well, teachers too, but the reality is the thing I've noticed in the workplace, it's almost as if people are vilified for coughing and sneezing. We were sneezing before COVID.
Right.
We
But
were
you
coughing
can't sneeze
before.
now. You
Yeah,
can't
I'm
cough
like,
now. You can't cough in public. You cannot sneeze in public because you will get the side eye and get sent home.
and get sent home. I mean, because reality is this. I'm just thinking about the people who have allergies.
Yeah.
You know, there's no distinction.
Yeah. We have a
Between the-
relative who has allergies and she got sent home for 14 days. Even though her COVID test came back negative,
Yeah.
she still got sent home for 14 days because she was coughing and sneezing a little bit too much at work.
Right. That made other people uncomfortable and made people nervous. But the reality is that's your body's way of getting something that's not supposed to be in your body out. So now we defy science because of fear.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, we can't sneeze.
That's
My Caleb
something.
sneezes every single morning. He wakes up. That's his thing. Those allergies. He's getting all those foreign particles out of his body, and he sneezes every morning, multiple times. He's fine,
Starting around 6:30.
but that's his process. That's his body. That's how it is. So I can't imagine also sending him to school with that. Can you imagine what the teachers are going to say? They're going to call us and tell us we got to go home.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Go
And
ahead.
back on the line of education, I had one more thing I wanted to say.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead. We're listening.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Was when you was talking about the internet and the service and all of that. Well, I've been on several Zoom workshops this summer preparing for virtual learning. And on top of all of that, now you're going to have students and parents trying to learn new programs to learn how to work and maneuver. On top of learning how to having slow internet, no internet, or can barely read and understand themselves, now they have a whole new program to learn how to work as well. So that's going to bring a hindrance also.
So how patient will
Thank
teachers
you.
be?
Yes.
Just as a question, I mean, how patient will teachers be? I know how I was. Montez is on and Summer. Oh my God. Yeah, I wasn't the most patient guy, the most patient teacher, because I believe that students could learn really, really fast. I believe they were great. But how will teachers be patient with parents who may not be there academically?
They're going to have to learn to be flexible and patience. They're going to have to really pray for patience, is because even with me going through the workshops, I just had to, email the lady and just tell her, send me the PowerPoint, send me the information. And so they did. They sent the book. They sent the charts. They sent us all this information. But with me as a teacher going through and seeing how I can implement this virtually, if I had issues with it, I can only imagine what my students and parents are going to go through with. So we're going to have to be patient with them. We're going to have to do this step-by-step guideline for them. We was talking about one thing our principal said was that we wanted to have a day set aside to teach parents, to train parents on these new programs. And my thing is that I hope the parents attend, because some parents, we've tried this before with digital math, and the parents just didn't show up for it. For the workshops. And so,
what is digital math? Of course, they didn't show up.
I might have been one of those parents.
Right. I mean, but it's something to think about. And I know I haven't, disclosed. I don't think I have, but I'm intentionally.
You're right, Summer.
Some.
I wouldn't have made it.
Right, but and I do appreciate you sharing. I didn't say your name, but I didn't say your name intentionally because I do realize we are here and we're having this conversation, but it's a very sensitive topic, and so I'm grateful for educators sharing and being able to share the information. But I don't want to cause any kind of problems to anybody, any schools or anything like that. But I do realize you're just sharing as an individual, and so I appreciate you again for not saying your school's name and don't say your principal's name as we just continue to share. So thank you for that. But let me, and Montez want to talk about something. It's going to bring us something, but just give me 1 second, because you struck a nerve when you said that you had to learn how to do something so that you can be able to teach this to your students, and talking about the learning curve of the parents. Well, let's talk about this. What about the teachers? Even maybe like yourself, but what about the teachers who don't have internet access? We keep talking about these students who don't have internet access.
We assume teachers do.
But teachers, no, there are educators, and you can probably testify to this, but there are educators who don't have internet access. There are educators who don't have the reliable computers and the reliable equipment to be able to do the virtual learning. Some educators will be doing the teaching virtually, but and some who are actually in the building will have to also make sure there's virtual content. But all educators don't have all the tools that they need in their home to be able to give the students all that they need. Am I right about that, or am I making that up?
You are correct about that. And so for this year, starting off, all of our teachers have to teach virtually from the school. So we still have to get up every morning and go to school, and we have to teach from the school.
So even though you're, okay, I got it. That makes sense, okay. Because they don't have everything.
Exactly.
I got you. Yeah, because I've come across educators, they don't have all the equipment in their homes, and they don't make, $80,000, $90,000 a year to be able to outfit their home to be able to teach kids from home, which is why when school ended, we would receive a lot of packages. And many parents on here can relate to packages being sent home. So they would send packages home, and you would do the work and send it back. But my understanding is this fall, that's not what we're doing. The students are going to be expected to be in front of a device and actually be taught from in front of that device and check in on that device every day.
Right.
So, yeah. Let's get to Montez. Oh, you want to say something else before we go to Montez?
I'm sorry. Then I'll let him go after this. And another thing that we're going to have to do while we're at school teaching virtually, we're going to have to video ourselves and download our lessons on jump drives. And parents can come and pick up devices from the school, and they can use those devices, the ones that don't have internet.
Wow. Okay, let me get this. We're gonna get to some of these other comments online. This is good. So stay on with us. So I want to make sure everybody has this. So this is what one district is doing to make sure that students and families who don't have internet can still get their lessons. So teachers will be on site, and they will teach the lessons. This is so cumbersome for teachers. They need a raise, Lord. You will teach the lessons virtually, save them to a jump drive, then have the jump drives available for parents to come to the school and pick up a device and pick up a jump drive, because then you won't need the internet. All you have to do is put the jump drive in the computer and get the lesson. I get it. But good Lord.
It's a lot.
But this is we have to adjust. Come share. What's Montez saying here?
So Montez, he wants to talk about the safety of the children. These parents are going back to work. Daycares are closed. Many of these children will be left at home. So you're going to have a lot of latchkey kids. Mm-hmm. And that, I know that was a big challenge, I know, in the 80s and 90s. And it probably didn't stop. But latchkey kids, that's a major issue. I mean, you have children taking care of children, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a challenge legally.
Well, when we signed on, and so this is something to think about, Montez, because we've already received the notification from our district. So we've had to sign, and the agreement that we had to sign said if our kids, and we know this because of the age of our kids, but I think it's the same regardless of any age, it says that if we agree that if we want our kids to stay home and participate in virtual learning, one, we have to realize they have to be in front of the device every day. Attendance will be taken every day. An adult has to be there with them every day. I mean, that's a no-brainer for us, but I'm thinking fast forward to these kids, for the parents who have 15-year-olds or 16-year-olds. Mm-hmm. I think the language is still the same, that it's saying that an adult has to be there with them while they're participating in this virtual learning. I don't know if any parent on here has children that age and who's saying that, but what? I stay at home Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you stay Tuesday, Thursday.
Impossible.
It's not impossible. I mean, you have to figure it out. Do you stay like half day Tuesday, Thursday, get them started for the morning hours, and then go to work? It is not impossible. These are the things that we have to deal with. What? Don't you press one of those buttons. What are you gonna do? That's another live. Because then what would be the expectation? As we've signed this agreement to say our kid at home,
Well,
who stays home?
It's so much. It's so much in that. Number
Are
one.
you assuming I'm stay home?
See, but and the funny thing is, I was about to say that though. So you're looking at gender roles, right?
I mean,
roles and responsibilities.
This another live,
it is another live.
Another live, cause
but I'm just thinking.
I'm thinking we doing it together. I get 3 days, you get 2 days, and
let me tell you
figure
something.
it out.
What this is making everybody do is restructure their not only their household but their work. And how people work. So I'm just thinking about single moms or single
Like
parents.
Courtney
Dr. Courtney mentioned something about single parents, and there's going to be a learning curve. But not only that, I'm just thinking about what does this do to like teenage pregnancy rates?
Here we go. So
I said it.
Jumped from.
I ain't
but
scared.
yeah, I know. I mean, you just
And don't act like it's not gonna happen.
We just went
Impact.
from 5 years. No. You brought up a good point because I could. Let me see. I can get somebody else on the line also who was weighing in. It's a good point because I know in the rural communities where I've served, even school districts that I've served,
Where we've served.
Okay, well, I'm just saying school districts where I specifically served in working in teen pregnancy prevention.
Mm-hmm.
When I worked nonprofit teen pregnancy prevention, one of the biggest things is on days when kids were out of school.
Monte.
When kids were out of school and all those things taking place, those are days that we had to be more diligent and more vigilant in the community because kids, you don't have nothing else to do. So you do each other. There's nothing else to do.
Did my pastor just say so they do each other?
I just said I worked in teen pregnancy prevention. I mean, that's what it was.
Oh,
and
the fat
so,
lady has sung.
What? Did my husband just call me? Okay, never mind. Let's just keep going.
It's an expression.
This live keeps opening up a whole nother line of questioning here. Marcus is in rare form today, but we have to make sure. Summer brings up domestic violence, all types of things. But this is what happens. This is young lady is on here now. Dr. Courtney is saying, as a single parent who already has a job, now you have a teenage daughter who needs to be educated, but she's not sending her daughter back to school.
Right.
It's just so complicated. And yes, so somebody mentioned there's going to be a gap here. Something's going to happen with this whole learning thing. Mm-hmm. I've already said, all of our kids are going to be impacted by this.
Absolutely.
All of our kids are going to have some catching up to do. So I don't know, educators, I don't know if you're going to retire in 2021. Is this going to be too much? Because I think next school year, it's going to be so many educators playing catch up. Can I get your perspective on that?
I think that it's going to be some catching up need to be done. And they're already looking at some extended learning days, like after school tutorial. Mm-hmm. But my thing is, how are we going to do after school tutorial? We're going to do it the same way we're doing it virtually? Or what's that going to look like?
Right.
But, so I'll maybe be able to answer more questions once we go in this week and get our pre-planning going.
Oh, wait, so you go back into the building this week?
Yes.
Oh.
And we will have, from Wednesday of this week and all of next week to do our pre-planning to figure out things, how we're going to do it. And on August the 10th, our students will start virtually.
Wow.
Well, one thing I thought about, even while you were speaking, we're talking about protecting our teachers, protecting our students. One of the things I thought about was how are we cleaning these schools? So like for
go ahead.
so like for instance, one of the things that's opening back up are government contracts to staffing companies like ours, right? And so we've applied and bidded on several janitorial contracts to clean government buildings. And what the government has done in many cases, they've allowed more money for staffing companies or janitorial companies to come in and clean buildings. So, for instance, downtown, one of the contracts that we bidded on is for the Transit Authority, and so they're cleaning bus stations every 30 minutes. Okay, now this is the bus station. They're also cleaning other government buildings every 30 minutes, and they're putting that in the contracts. But I don't see anything about them cleaning schools every 30 minutes.
Well, let's hear. Do y'all have? I know there's been lots of cleaning and lots of maintenance things going on at the schools.
Holy water and
Lysol and holy water. Help us, Lord. You can't even find Lysol, but Lysol and holy water. That's how some say we're gonna keep cleaning the school. But have they? And I know people are saying once we get back into school and we go through these sessions, they're gonna give us more information. But do you have any insight on how and the frequency in which your school will be cleaned?
Yes, I do have some insight through emails, and the plan is that, of course, the maintenance team and the janitorial team will spray the school, will disinfect the school every day. And in between students, like when they take bathroom breaks, for example, only one class will go at a time. And when that class is done, the gent will go in and clean. And then the next class, and we've been told we have to be adamant about students using the bathroom during that time. So they would get a bathroom break in the morning, and they'll get a bathroom break in the evening.
Sounds like prison.
Stop.
And I know, but and after each class goes out, then the janitors will go in and clean, and the next class will come in. And if a child have an emergency and needs to go, we need to let them go, but then we need to notify the office so the janitors can go back in and clean.
Let's stop. Okay, let me stop. Because all this time we've been talking about the educators. We've been talking about the educators this entire time. So thank you for bringing in the custodial staff.
Right.
Because back to the individuals, we know our teachers, most of our educators, I can't say most, a lot of our educators do have underlying conditions. But look at our custodial staff. Also, another very vulnerable population. Many, I mean, quite frankly, most of the schools that I have been connected to, and I have been connected to a lot of schools, the custodial staff are predominantly older African-American men and women. Many of them, just by nature of statistics, I mean, I don't even have to know these people to know that many of them have underlying conditions.
Got something going on. Yeah.
And so now these individuals with the underlying conditions are going to be, and they are the lowest paid on the totem pole. You just said that they're giving more money in contracts because cleanings have to be done more frequently. Will the custodial staff and the maintenance staff get a raise? Because now, will they get hazard pay? Because now they're having to go into the bathrooms 10 times a day, potentially, to clean them after every class or disinfect after every class. I can't talk no more. Let's read the comments. Go ahead.
Wow. Yeah, I mean.
And Jabertas is saying something. How is that all that cleaning is supposed to happen? Oh, yeah, like what budget? When you start talking about the school budget.
Well, it's going to hit tax increase.
Oh, gosh.
That's we're going to pay for it through a tax increase. It's not just going to come out of thin air. When you
listen at this.
Yes, ma'am.
According to this government, there is going to be a 14% cut in the educational budget this year.
Wait, they're going to wait a minute. Wait. In the midst of a pandemic, they want to propose a 14% cut in the educational budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Federal government.
All right.
Ms. Robinson, just tuning in. Would
Ma.
love to have you weigh in on this conversation. Oh my goodness, it is something. Okay, so Okay.
I don't even know what to say.
I
right?
don't know what to say, but Summer has indicated that, we talk about, you said that that's worse than prison when we were talking about students and their limitations and going to the restrooms and all of that.
Right.
But she said that's not the case because inmates can go as they please. So it really isn't like prison.
So it's worse. As she said.
It's worse. It's worse than. But what we're talking about here is the business of going back to school. We haven't even gotten into the business part yet. How people are profiting off of us in terms of the supplies, all these things that we need to buy. We want schools to reopen because we need, like you said, those contracts. Think about the people who make the testing for the students to have to take. And I did see in our kids' messages said that there's any standardized test that needs to be taken. If they decide to let them do that, they will have to come back in the building to do that test. Of course, they can't do that virtually. And there may be certain meetings. But when you think about all these major corporations who have contracts with schools, and for you to say that schools will be closed, that hits the pockets of Fortune 500, 100, companies in a major way. And so this is why I believe, this is just my belief, the administration is heavily pushing for all these buildings to be open. Because these contracts, we need to fulfill these contracts. Because we need to keep America, I understand keeping people working, but I do believe, it's about profit over people. It's profit over people.
Wow.
Profit over
Exactly.
I don't
Summer
know.
said Jesus be a fence and a sanitizer. Yeah. So, we do need sanitizers.
Well, and interesting enough, Montez talks about a simple task like serving lunch.
Well, lunches, and you can weigh in on this, but I know from our district, we've been told that lunches, if you are in the building, kids won't be able to go to the cafeteria anymore to have lunch. Lunches will be brought into the classroom. All the meals will take place in the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should be interesting. Well, the other thing is, it's just if you're seeing this for the first time, what you're going to notice is that this whole conversation around education is breeding more questions than answers.
It is.
Right? So, for instance, if you think about the fact that when it comes down to something as simple as teachers retiring, there's a Tarrying program where you can pretty much continue to work after your allotted years. What is that going to do to the Tarrying program? Because we have a shortage of teachers, especially in critical need areas. And so if you've already worked 25 or 30 years and you're tarrying, are you more likely to continue to tarry, or are you more likely to go ahead and retire and call it quits?
Well, that's what Belia and I'm gonna let you say that too. But Belia is saying on the line that she believes that more teachers are going to retire. Teachers are going to retire, or they're just going to quit, because they're doing all this extra work. They're going to be required to do all this extra work, and as we just heard here, typically there's a 14% education budget cut that's being proposed. So there's not an increase. And I'm not just talking about for our educators, but our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, our custodial staff. Again, these people who are the lowest paid people, right, in the educational totem pole, but they're going to be required to put themselves at risk, and sometimes at more risk.
Yeah.
And what were you going to say about the retire? Are you retiring anytime soon? I don't want you to give away again.
we got a conversation sound like we need to have offline.
No, you were just making a comment about teachers retiring. Do you think that there will be more teachers retiring soon?
I think it will be more teacher retiring.
Because we have an instance of a person that we both know very well. I don't know if she's watching. She may be watching, but can retire, but has opted to go back into the classroom this year. Wants to go back. She said that this year was the hardest year ever working with her students. And she's been in education, Lord, probably over 40 years. But she said this is the hardest year. This has been the hardest year, most difficult year ever, because she had to reach her students by any means necessary. She thought outside the box, even at the age of 70, and went on Instagram and talked to her students, went on Facebook, on Messenger, wherever she needed to go to meet her students. She went there to meet her students, was ready to retire, and in the midst of COVID, decided to go back into the classroom. Conversely, another parent friend of ours, one of our kids' friends, she decided, and she's younger than us, that she is actively looking for a job. She cannot go back into the classroom. Although she has over 10 years in education, she said it's not worth the risk to her family, as she has small children like we have small children. She doesn't want to do it. And so I think, it's hard to predict and hard to say, because you have the educator who's 70 and can retire saying, I'm going back, and you have one who's in her 30s who's saying, I can't do this because I don't want to put my children at risk.
Well, and then there's so much. I mean, so like, for instance, when you think about this, you have those educators who are true teachers. I mean, they want to teach. That's what they want to do. They want to impact lives. And then you have those who went to college. They ended up being teachers. They don't necessarily get the joy out of it. They don't necessarily have the impact or the creativity to be real teachers. And so, for instance, I don't think there are going to be a whole lot of teachers that's going to make that 30-year trip, that 25-year trip down.
The younger ones. I understand
like my mom, she really taught 30 years and retired.
Right.
And I know a lot of other teachers are either on that track or have done that. But like for me, I mean, quite frankly, I know I wasn't cut out for it. And I wasn't. I have 3 of my students on now.
Yeah, you have another student on here.
Hey, April.
April.
I don't think so.
Wow.
But these were really, really smart people. I have to give it to them.
This is so funny. This
is scary.
To Mark's age. Okay, so you have 3 students. Did you teach them when they were in 7th grade?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have 3 of your students online now.
Who are adults and have families, Jesus. Okay. All right.
Okay, so thank you so much. I like that y'all are commenting and you are sharing with others. This is a very it's a very sensitive topic. It's a very complicated.
Very layered.
Because it is layered. Because as we begin to talk about one thing, we are, as Marcus said, we're revealing and uncovering so many other layers. It's why it's no easy decision when you start talking about like what's best for your family. I just believe that each family has to do what works best for them. I have talked to some mothers, like one mother mentioned on here. I've talked to a mother, and she's just said, as a single mother, who she needs to go to work every day, as much as she hates and she fears about this coronavirus and her child, she has to send her child back to school.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a choice in the matter. She has to send her child. Daycares are closed. There aren't other programs or institutions that are out there. A lot of churches are closed who are allowing students to come in, and that is her only option, to talk to her child every single day, to talk to him about his mask, his shield. So she's opting for the shield. Mm-hmm. She's putting a shield on him every single day and letting him go to school and just believe that he is, I think he's going to be in the 4th grade, make all the right decisions and do the right thing. And I mean, what can you say? What can you say? That's where we are. That's where we are.
It's going to be tough.
In the North, I'm going to say this and I'm going to get to some of the comments, and I digress. I know of a group of pastors who've come together in Connecticut, I think.
Okay.
And what they're doing is, because schools are closed, essentially, or people are going in and they don't feel safe sending their kids back to school, the churches, large churches, are opening their buildings. They're opening their classrooms, their Sunday school classrooms, and they're setting them up as small learning centers where kids can come and learn virtually. And they have the retired educators who, I mean, again, it's still complicated, but they have educators who are coming in, who are working with these kids. So when families say they're not comfortable with sending their kids back to school, now some of them are sending them to these church-based programs which will basically just allow them to, if they don't have internet or if they don't have whatever, allow them to simulcast, if you will. Look
Right.
at the education, look at their teacher at the church in a Sunday school classroom, and then have somebody there as a church volunteer to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Very tricky, complicated. Mark is looking like I wouldn't do that, but that's another option.
But
that
and
people
it's
are doing.
and it's only because I mean, no matter where they are, you still have the same cleaning,
I know.
sanitizing, time, money constraints that you're gonna have. Now, my mom is on here, and some of you may wonder where I get my boldness and vocality from. She says that it's ridiculous, in a in a phrase that we're trying to send these kids back. We can't agree. We've not been on the same page. You still have school districts doing their own thing because we don't have a federal mandate right now to say that this is what we're going to do. This is how schools will operate. This is how schools will do. Everything is based on states and school districts. So if you have 50 states and then you have God knows how many school districts, you have God knows how many ways of doing things. And that's the scary part. So it's going to be interesting.
Summer, who has stated in the comments earlier, if you're just getting on, says that she is in quarantine, and Summer indicates that she has to wear, and she's urging for everyone to wear a mask. But before we leave, I want you to tell us, for my caller that's on the line, I want to make sure I got this right. I think you said, as educators, when you go back to school next week in your district, educators are required to wear masks, but when your students come back, your students don't have to wear masks. Did I get that right?
That's right. They will. They will suggest that they wear them, but they can't force them to wear them.
They're going to make suggestions.
And this is a middle school. I will say that much, right? So I can kind of see if you got a kindergartner who won't keep a mask on. We have a 7-year-old who won't keep a mask on. So I kind of get it. I have had a friend who said she's talked to the special education teacher, and the special education teacher said that they are not going to make the kids in the classroom, in the special education class, they can't force them to keep the mask on. But here it is on this line, a middle school educator who is saying that her school has said, so this speaks to what Ms. Robinson is saying, that we can't get on the same page and there's no mandate. It doesn't make sense. If you are going back in school and you are a middle school student, now, unless there's a medical reason for the district to say, we're going to just suggest that the students wear masks, but the students don't have to wear masks, I cannot understand that.
I can't either, but we will have face shields and or mask.
So your district is giving you shields?
Yes.
Have you ever worn a face shield before?
No.
I have. And if you try to wear a face shield and a mask, Lord have mercy, especially in the South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina heat. It is atrocious.
And if you wear glasses.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it is very cumbersome.
It's a major challenge.
These are the challenges and these are the barriers that we have to deal with. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very enriching. I don't know, it's enriching, but I feel like my anxiety level has gone up a little bit.
Well, and think
this conversation.
and think of it this way. I mean, this whole thing, faith, family, and finances, as it relates to education, there is a faith that that we're having to exercise right now.
I feel like we need to pray.
That literally, is challenging everybody's faith, no matter what it is. Because none of us have the answer to this whole COVID thing. But, faith, whether it is impacting our finances. Let's be clear. Some people, there will be some who get rich, okay, during every pandemic, every issue that our country or world goes through, but it's not the vast majority. And, so faith, family, and finances, the family impact is crucial. We have an opportunity, I think, to connect with our kids in a way that we've never connected before, and teach them things that we've not taught in a long time. But at the same time, it's very time consuming. It is not the world that we lived in just 6 months ago, and it's not going to be the world that we're living in 6 months from now. So it's gonna be an experience. So buckle up.
Please, Montez says, please wear your mask, or unfortunately he will have to meet your
you at the
family at the
funeral home.
home. Montez, I was on your the funeral home site today, as unfortunately we have a dear friend who's no longer with us because of COVID, and I was on the site today to try to find more information. And you tell me if I'm wrong, but when I was on the site, it was just overwhelming to just see so many people. I mean, just so I pray. I say a special prayer. You know, as we think about all of our first responders and we think about our healthcare workers, I am definitely praying for funeral homes and funeral home staff, because you guys are definitely on the front lines, and your work is not an easy work, and it's so demanding during this time. So we definitely pray for you and pray for your family, and pray that everybody just stay safe. To everybody that's on, please be safe. Please wear your mask. Please wear your mask. And encourage others to do the same. Y'all be safe. We'll be back next week
Absolutely.
for another episode of Faith,
Family, and Finances.
Thank you, y'all. Have a good one.
Have a good night.
Good night. Hold on. Oh. Summer said her